Welcome back to the podcast, Bec. It's so nice to be talking to you again, even though really we just chatted a few days ago.
I know. I'm so happy to be back here. It almost feels like it's just going to be a fun break from my day because it's just chatting with a friend.
Well, that's kind of the reason I invited you back on, actually, is because I'm taking a bit of a hiatus from recording my podcast at the moment. I was getting a little bit flat, like just, I know you've got a podcast as well. And I don't know if you ever go through stages where you're sitting in front of your mic and you just, I don't know, it's not as inspiring. And whenever I have guests on, especially guests like you that I love, we just chat, it's just easy. And I'm like, who can I reach out to have come on, give an update on where they're at in business and life? And I thought about you. So it's wonderful to have you here.
I know, it's great. It's perfect. And, whenever we chat on the phone, I often think, I was like, oh, actually, that was such a raw chat about business, but both sides of business. You're someone that always cheers me on, and I'm someone that always cheers you on. But then we always talk about the struggles too. And I'm like, oh, that would actually be almost a really cool podcast recording because we're always talking about the good and the bad, which is so important for people to hear, right?
Exactly. Well, maybe we should let people know who you are before we dive on into this chat. So could you maybe do an intro to who you are and maybe also how we know each other?
My name is Bec. My business name is Health with Bec, and I have been running my business for 7 years. I'm a nutritionist and I specialize in weight loss and gut health for women. So I help women who have tried it all finally find the answers to their bloating concerns and also stop the yo-yo dieting and slim down without the hunger and teach them how to really keep it off for life as well. So they're kind of the women that I help. And
Can I just interrupt you there? Because I have already had a few people who've reached out to me in the DMs. Like I might have shared like your smoothie recipe or tagged you in something. And people are like, I found Bec through you. And I have finally, cured my gut health issues, or I finally lost weight. She's so amazing. Thank you for introducing me to her. So there you go.
I love that so much. So that's what I do. And I do that through my signature program, the 3-week body reset. And then if women get results from the 3-week body reset and they really feel like the lifestyle is for them, then I have a membership that women join called the Health with Bec Tribe. So I've got 2 products that I sell, and that's primarily what I do. But I also have a podcast as well called Body Bites with Bec, and I'm very active on my Instagram, Health with Bec. So yeah, that's what I'm doing currently. It hasn't always been that, which I'm sure if we want to go into a business journey, we can chat about where it started and stuff. But yeah, meeting you and having you in my life has just been a huge part of my business journey, both the ups and downs and just all of it. So
well, let's chat about how we first met. Because it was on Instagram, wasn't it?
Yeah, you must have popped up somehow. I don't know how, but I was like, I connect with that woman. It was a very raw post that you shared. I think it was you when you had, this is what it was. Oh my God, it's so funny how you remember these key little moments. It's when you shared yourself struggling and you were like, I need a room in a hotel by myself to just have a break.
Yes, I remember that. My kids were driving me nuts. Yep. Probably my husband too. And I was like, I have to leave. And I just went and checked into the Hilton and I just wasn't sleeping at home. Yep. And I just knew that when you've got little kids, you can't. So I just went and checked myself into a hotel room. And when I shared that post, so many people reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, this resonates so much. I can't believe you just went to a hotel. And yeah, and obviously you were someone who saw that post too.
Well, I did. I didn't even know you. So it's weird that sort of resonated with me, even though I don't have kids. I resonated at the time because I had chronic insomnia. And that's where the journey of meeting you started, and the journey to me actually learning how to step back and scale started, because what happened was, I saw you on Instagram, but then I also, at the same time, I was highly obsessed with Steph Taylor, who I'm sure a lot of the listeners know as well, because she's, a really good friend of yours and mine now. But with her podcast, I was binging that and she was teaching me so much. And so when I found out that you were a business coach and you also lived in Brisbane, that I was like, oh, Steph lives in Brisbane too. I was at rock bottom. So at the point before I met you guys, I was my business started as one-to-one seeing clients. So it was client only. And then I built my first digital product. So my first meal plan, that's the 3-Week Body Reset. Back then it was called the 21-day Spring Slim Down Plan. Although it might've been the 3-Week Body Reset when we met, but basically I was at rock bottom and I was feeling like you were, because I was doing a few one-to-ones. I did back off them, but I was just trying to, scale this digital product and teach myself an entire marketing degree. And I was just doing way too much. I hadn't outsourced like anything yet. I had a completely different mindset to what I have now. And so I knew that it was time to finally just make a change and hire a business coach for the first time in my life. And because you were there, I said to you, I messaged you and I also messaged Steph at the same time. And I said to Steph, if I fly to Brisbane, will you meet me for a coffee? And me saying that was so exciting because I was like, she's a celeb to me. And then when I messaged you saying, actually, if I'm going to invest in this, I want to be with you face to face. Like, I don't want to do it over the phone. I wanted to fly there. And I was like, if they both meet me, that will be a double whammy. But then it was the best feeling when you reached back, you got back to me and you were like, oh, Bec, like Steph's one of my best friends. We can all have dinner together. And I was like, oh, I just got so excited.
Isn't it crazy to think about that now? It's funny because people often ask me to catch up for coffee and things on Instagram, and I won't meet up with someone that I don't know. But I think also you had invested to work with both of us. You'd done a session with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really beautiful to look back on that story now, all these years later, now that we've become friends and shared so much of our journeys and lives with each other along the way, and think that that's how initially we connected.
100%. Because Claire, before I met you guys, I felt so alone. I didn't, the importance of like-minded business friends and also working with a business coach, but yeah, both. It changed my life because I didn't have any business friends before I met you guys. And so that's part of the reason I felt so alone and overwhelmed and just really down and not that great, because when you don't have someone that's sharing the same struggles as you, like none of my friends own businesses. They're all doing different things. No one understood what I was going through. So meeting you guys was so beautiful, because ever since then, I feel like that's just that in itself, just the friendship and having our like phone calls every couple of weeks, just keep me on track and keep me accountable. And yeah, it's been a wild journey, and we just clicked. Like there's some people that you just click with, and we just clicked. Hey.
Exactly. And it's funny, something I find, because I talk about money a lot, people feel comfortable talking to me about money. So a lot of my biz friends will say, oh my gosh, I just made this much in a month. And I don't even know who to tell because it's crazy, but I know that I can tell you because you're all about this. And on the flip side, sometimes people ring me up and say, I literally made $2,000 last month and I don't know what's going on and I think I'm going to die. And, and it's really cool that I get to be part of these conversations and be in a part of people's world where maybe they don't feel like they can share with a lot of people who aren't in this world, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. Because money is it's a topic that isn't spoken about enough. Yeah. Actually, rarely at all. I know that you're doing it, but like you said, there's not many people that you can go to and just freely share how much money you make, especially when if people aren't business owners, because they don't understand that, okay, there's all the hard work, number one, but also it's not all profit. Yeah. So having you, knowing that I can be like, Claire, like share my wins and stuff, is a really beautiful feeling, because you can't really tell many people about it. That
in saying that as well, you have literally just told the world about how much money you've made recently. So maybe let's talk a little bit about that, because I know that it was always a dream of yours to, both you and I really look up to James Wedmore. He's just an amazing, like there's something about the way that he shares his messages that's just incredible. It's on my vision board to be on his podcast, and I know it was on yours. So do you want to share a little bit about that journey and how the flipping hell that came about?
Yeah. Oh, so like I said, I was obsessed with Steph's podcast. She introduced me to listen to James Wedmore's podcast, and I've been binging that, and he's taught me so much. And I've just been just obsessed with everything he does, everything he teaches for so long. I joined his business course in mid 2020, which I think was a year after I met you guys. I think I met you guys in 2019. Holy crap, that was a long time ago. And yeah, ever since I started listening to his podcast, and especially when I joined his course, I just said to myself, oh my God, I really want to be on that podcast one day. Like I'm not a huge, like I manifest in a way. I manifest like with a lot of things that you teach me, like I manifest abundance and knowing that everything's possible and taking that first step before you're ready, and just so many of the tools that you've taught me, but I've never actually like manifested specific things happening. Like I've never like, I want to do this amount by the end of the month, or just have this house by then, or I don't know. I've kind of really just thought I've had sort of an abundance mindset, but I've just done things and they've happened along the way, if that makes any sense at all. But with being on James's podcast, that actually is one thing that I was like, I really want to be on that one day. And so when I sort of had my really huge growth in the last year, and especially this year in particular, which we can go into if you want to, I was like, okay, Bec, this is your time to start pitching. Like, I feel like you deserve to be on the podcast. Like, I would always listen to his case study episodes and just get so inspired by them. And I always wanted to be one of them one day. So, I pitched a couple of times this year, didn't hear back. But then I went on this spontaneous trip to Italy and Amsterdam, which you know about. I went about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I booked the flight on a Sunday, left on Wednesday, just a quick 2-week trip, which was wild. I've never done anything that last minute before. And after Amsterdam, which I partied a lot in, so I was a bit hungover, coming from a nutritionist. That doesn't sound that great, but we are all human. I saw this ad come up by him that was like, final days to submit your case study video. And he had this competition running where anyone that has done his business by design, so his signature program, could upload a video, like a 3-minute video of how he's changed their lives. And if you win, the prize was epic. It was like, go on the podcast, meet him in America for a one-on-one day, access to his next course, and $10,000 cash or something like that. So I was like, Bec, get this video done. It was so hard to do because I was hungover, but I was like, get it in, because the deadline was that night. So I submitted it, knew it wasn't perfect, but what I've learned throughout my business journey is that nothing's ever going to be perfect. And unless you put things out there and you just try, you never know. So I wasn't expecting to be a finalist or to win at all. But anyway, I found out 2 weeks later, opened my inbox, and it was like, congratulations, you're a finalist for the case study competition. And that was so exciting in itself, because there was hundreds and hundreds of videos that people submitted. And I was a finalist, but then on the same day, this was only like 2 weeks ago, this was one of the best days of my life. On the same day, I got another email from Jenny, who is his like co-host of the podcast and girlfriend, saying, oh, by the way, Bec, we also want you on the podcast. So like, regardless of, whether you win or not, like, we want to get you on the podcast. Can you come on ASAP? So that's how it came about. So within 1 week, this was all like, a week or two ago, I recorded the podcast, but then I also had to show up on like a live Zoom call with the other 5 finalists and share our journey again with James and all the people on his training. I didn't win, unfortunately. It went off votes. So someone else got more votes than me, but I got on his podcast, and that's been my dream for 4 years. And it's one of the most surreal things I've ever done, because I just still can't believe that I'm sitting here saying it. Like, it's cool.
Well, I'm so flippin' proud of you. As you know, like every step of the way, I've been like, are you serious? That is so, so cool. I've been really, really excited for you. And, I got to go over to a conference hosted by James and his partner, Jenny. And it was just the most amazing, transformative experience.
Yeah.
And to hear you on his podcast is just so cool. And I'm really, really happy for you. So let's talk a little bit about, because the topic of the podcast was pretty vulnerable, really.
Yeah, I know.
Do you want to share what the episode was called?
Yeah, it was called How a Health Coach, kind of wish it said nutritionist, but anyway. He obviously wanted it to relate to lots of people. He wanted it to say
coach because that would resonate with his audience.
Yeah. I think it was, how a health coach took her business from $5,000 months to $1.2 million quarters whilst traveling in Italy. So yes, that's still true, but I've never had anything shared about how much money I make ever. before. And because my Instagram and business isn't like, I have a lot of business owners that follow me, but it's not predominantly that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like yours or Steph, where it's about business. So it's a bit easier to share about how much you make and stuff because it inspires other people. This was one of the biggest achievements of my life to be on there. But then I was presented with this really big mindset block and anxiety in the last couple of weeks at the same time because of the headline. And, you know, I obviously want to share it with my audience because I'm so proud. And I know that most of my audience loves hearing about sort of my success and my journey. But the fact that it's about how much money I make, I'm just toying with all these different things in my head going like, will people judge? Will people understand the hard work? Do people understand that like I'm not that, it's not like I'm a millionaire yet because it's not all profit, obviously. Like you don't want people to think about you differently. I don't know. It's just all these money stories that I know that you'd be so all over. And it's just navigating that
But it's funny as well. Like I still go through all of these challenges when I'm sharing anything about money. And, you know, you sort of get comfortable with talking about something to a certain level, and then it steps into a new level and you're like, oh my gosh, like, is this, and, you know, I am a money coach and I still struggle with this stuff. So I can't even imagine. And especially for, as you hit on, like your audience, your demographic, at least people are coming to me to learn about money. For you, you know, a lot of your audience would be like, what the hell is she talking about? And then I imagine that it also creates stories about you then, like when you're selling, you're like, I don't want them to think that I'm just doing this because of money, or do they think that I've already got enough? And I know that on one of our chats, we spoke about, well, this was my take on your situation, because you were really sharing that you were grappling with sharing this story with the world. And I was talking about someone, you know, similar industry, but not exactly the same, which is Michelle Bridges. Now, it's well known that she's a multimillionaire because, you know, of the size of her program. And I said, I don't think that her audience mind, because they're there to have a transformation. And if they believe that she can deliver the transformation, does it really matter, you know, how much money she has or hasn't got? People are looking for the outcome. They're looking for the transformation.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I can imagine it's been this really vulnerable experience for you, because I still find it really vulnerable and awkward. And even with my book, I was like, maybe I should pull certain numbers out, or it's the ongoing battle that goes on in our head.
It's tricky. And I've been trying to do as much mindset work as I can about it, because I always try to go back, is this a story that you're telling yourself, or is this like reality? Like, is this false or is it true? And I think both sides are true depending on who your followers are. And I think you're never gonna, I'm trying to tell myself like what I've always told myself for 7 years, like when I'm truly authentic and vulnerable and honest on my Instagram, some people are going to relate and some people aren't. And so now that I've shared that, like I've shared it on my story once, I still haven't shared it on my feed because I'm waiting for him. Like they've told me that they're actually making a reel about it and they want me to be a collaborator. So like I want to do that, but then I'm still just battling with this like story, but I'm just kind of hoping that like the people that appreciate it and that support me will like it, and the people that don't maybe aren't my people. I don't know. But it's something that I'm just navigating, because you don't want to be thought of as different to anyone else. I don't know. I'm trying to think, have you ever had any beliefs about people that make $1 million? Like, do you think that they would be different to anyone else? Like, I do know personally that there are some people in the world that make millions of dollars and they are snobby and they are entitled and all that. But then there's some people that make $1 million and they're really authentic, just genuine people, and you wouldn't even know. And so I don't know. I wouldn't want anyone to think of me as any different. But we were talking about this the other day. I'm kind of rambling, but I kind of want to say that even though I'm making a little bit more money this year, well, like quite a lot more money this year than last year, my life is still the same. If anything, it's a bit more stressful at the moment because of all these mindset blocks that are coming up and new things to navigate and more team. I've got a bigger team now, and it's not easy, but I'm still the same person. Like, it's not, if you make more money, it doesn't, I almost feel like I'm just as happy as I was last year or the year before, because to me, happiness comes from my friendships, living in a place that I feel comfortable and happy in, and just living like a balanced life that brings me joy. But it's all of the beautiful, almost like free things in life that make me the happiest. Of course, like money makes you happy too. Like, I love traveling and all of those things. But what I'm trying to say is that there's nothing different that's happened in the last couple of months since I've made $1 million this year. Like, it's not.
Yeah, it's
I
so
know that
multi-layered, this whole topic, isn't it? Because in some respects, it's interesting because I've been talking to friends about this a lot lately. And I know, like, a lot of my friends are now traveling business class and even traveling first class. And I mean, this is a big shift from you, even from a couple of years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I thought I would only ever be able to fly economy. When I went to Italy in July last year, I was like, oh my God, no, this is the last time I'm flying economy. But how is that going to be possible? I can't see that happening in the next couple of years. And then since then, I've been back to Italy twice, flying first class, and it's just wild. But this is another reason why it's so hard to share things on Instagram, because I always feel like I have to overcompensate and talk about the story because I don't want people to judge. Like, the reason I'm flying first class is because of the points that I've built up from all the money that I'm spending on ads. Like, I'm spending like $100,000 on ads at the moment. And so, like, I've got all these points, and they were both classic rewards flights. They're like 1/8 of the price compared to what first class is normally like. But people don't see that from the outside. They're like, oh, she's flying first class. Boom, boom, boom. Like, I don't know. It's
so multi-layered. And I think the interesting thing that I've observed on my journey and with other people as well is how, in some respects, well, you do kind of change, because at the end of the day, you weren't flying first class a year or two ago, and it does open up new things, new opportunities. And and sometimes you get a bit more confident in, I mean, how cool is it being able to go at the last minute, I'm flying to flippin' Italy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Claire, I'm just getting all those feels now. It is the coolest experience. And it does, like, when I did it for my 30th birthday last year, it was almost like that abundance manifesting task, because I said to myself, like, holy crap, I need to keep flying first class. Like, how can I just keep working hard and being strategic so that I can just manifest it happening more? Because it is a beautiful experience. And, when you have been in business for long enough and you've been working hard, and you do get to have those benefits here and there, like, we all deserve it. And I think it's beautiful to celebrate that. Like, I think it's like, if you just got a first class flight just bought for you and you didn't have to work hard for it or anything, like, I wonder if it wouldn't feel as special, would it? But when
and again, on the flip side of that, I also am constantly checking in on my privilege around things, because, like, for example, I'm like, I hate Jetstar. I had a bad Jetstar experience. If you're outside Australia, Jetstar is the budget airline that we've got here, and they're notorious for cancelling flights. My husband and I got stuck in a different city without our children because of the last flight that got cancelled. We ended up having to pay an arm and a leg to get on a plane back. And when I say things like, I would never fly Jetstar again, I'm like, whoa, like, in some respects, of course I've changed since before. Of course money has changed my perception, because when I was living in London, I had to fly budget airlines. I used to go out to the airport and catch the train the night before because I couldn't afford taxis, or maybe I just didn't want to spend money on taxis. And I'd sleep on the airport floor so that I'd be there to wake up. And the thought of doing that now just blows my privileged mind, that I would catch a train and sleep on an airport floor. So in some respects, it kind of does change you. It changes the choices that you've got. It changes the options that you want. And then on the flip side, it's also like, in other ways, you kind of don't change who you are in the core as a person.
No, well, like whether you fly first or business, or whether you fly business or economy, or whether you fly Jetstar over like Qantas, it doesn't change who you are at the core.
Exactly.
It's just changing the experience in your life. And I wouldn't call that privilege at all. That's you working hard and being older. Like you've just had more experience and you've had more time to make more money. And now, of course, like in the past, like when I'd go on holidays, I'd stay in like hostels and stuff, but life changes, but you're still the same person in the core. I think some people could get caught up in it and turn into a snob and think that they're entitled and stuff. But if you stay true to your core values and stuff, it doesn't mean that your actual like personality or anything like that has to change. It's just, you can just have a few more like luxury things to do in your life, I guess.
I feel like it's almost this paradox of, and this is me witnessing other people evolving around me, their income levels and things like that as well. It's this paradox of you're still the same person. Like you haven't, but then on the flip side, it's also like, but you kind of also are a different person when you change and evolve in your business success. Like it is also part of that evolution that you are changing in the same breath, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I felt it. I think I called you when I felt this, because I when I had my first, so basically like last year I was doing between like $30,000 to $60,000 months. And that was like roughly a $380,000 year. But then from March onwards this year, like I did two $400,000 months in a row. And because I hadn't felt how that would feel yet, because it was so new to me, and I didn't know if that was going to change my, not identity, but because it was such a big jump up in money. And there are all these stories that you've been told your whole life. I was like, is this about to change my sense of self or identity or relationships? Or I didn't know yet. So I was really anxious for a while. Also, on top of that anxiety, the reason I was anxious as well is because when your business grows, I had to hire 3 team members very, very fast to help with all the customer support. And so it's not, yes, it seems glamorous to grow, but you've got to make sure that you've got all of your systems in place first, which I had. Like I really had the system set up, thank God, so that when we hired more people, I actually had Kat, which is my full-time worker. I shouldn't say worker, that makes it sound so like bad. Angel, Kat is incredible. She's actually been training the new women because all the systems are laid out perfectly. So I didn't have to do any of the training, but I still had to do a little bit in a way. But just the whole transition of going from making, a certain amount and then making 10 times the amount or whatever it was, it's huge, not just only for the extra work, but you do hit new problems. You do hit more mindset challenges. But I'm really glad that I'm looking back now and going, oh, I didn't need to have that anxiety around an identity shift in inverted commas, because I'm still the same person. Like nothing's changed at all in my life. I think one of the things, I've never really spoken about this, and maybe I'll get vulnerable and say it here. I hate admitting this, but one of the things that I'm still working on and thought initially was, because I'm in the stages of dating at the moment. And I'm just like, because you hear all these stories about men not being attracted to women that make more than them or that are successful. And I don't want that to be true, but I'm like, what if that is true? And that makes some men not find it attractive. And that's another thing that makes me anxious. And I'm like, that's why I don't want to share it on my Instagram sometimes. And that's a really I've never really shared that anywhere, but that's another kind of sort of thing that I was really worried about at the time. But I don't want that, because you talk about this all the time, Claire. Like you're like, if you have got something that's blocking you, it will stunt your growth. And so you've kind of got to clear that, because otherwise you won't keep growing. So that is a stupid thing to keep me stuck.
It's funny because I think about that a new level of success unlocks a new level of potential partners, or a new level of people who are going to be, playing in a similar kind of game. So it's always interesting, our perception and our stories and all of those things, isn't it? But so let's keep talking about this money topic, because that's what we're here to talk about. So you're making a ton more money now, and you said not a lot's changed in your life except for the fact that you flew first class to Italy. last minute.
Once again, it was because it was a classic rewards flight deal.
You do not need to justify this to me. I think it's fantastic.
I have to justify it to the listeners, Claire, because I didn't just pay 18 grand. I literally paid $3,000 and used half of my points in my account. So it felt so doable. Like, I'm still shocked at how insane this deal was. And that's why I jumped on it on a Sunday and left on a Wednesday, because they only pop up very last minute.
Let's just keep talking about this money topic.
Okay.
So
okay.
The reality is you could afford to spend $18,000 on a flight if you wanted to, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
How
yeah.
does this settle in your body? Like, I'm sensing there's like this, there's shame, there's guilt coming up. There's like justification coming up about it. Like, what? Yeah. Like, you're saying your life hasn't changed a lot, but your life would change a lot? Or is it like you're investing a lot back into the business? Or what does this actually look like when someone rapidly grows their income in a short period of time?
Well, I probably do need to do that activity that we went through together when I first met you, about really understanding your numbers and, you know, where you're spending your expenses and all that stuff, because that's a very useful tool to have. And I have used that for ever since we met 3 years, to make sure that I do have a healthy profit margin. So in saying that, so like, you know, let's say it's $400,000 months, like it's, let's say, I don't know, between 50 to 60% profit. So it's not $400,000. It's like, and then you've got to take the tax out of that. And then, which is a lot, unfortunately, makes me so freaking upset whenever I think about it. and then at the moment, yes, I'm spending a lot on the business. So I'm building an app at the moment, and that's cost. I'm paying for that myself. So I haven't got a loan or anything. So like, there are a lot of business expenses, but that's happened in a very beautiful way, because it's like my business grew at the exact time that I needed it to, when I decided to build an app. Like, it's really beautiful how that's happened. And you teach that too. You're like, you've got to just take that step and then the money comes. And I feel like that happened to me in this situation. I decided to build the app and I was like, I can probably afford to pay half and then get a loan for the rest. But now I'm just funding the whole thing. So to me, at the moment, it's still looking like I'm being not sparing with my money. I'm still doing what I normally do in my life. Like, I love spending money on food. I love travel. Like, I can afford when I go away. I really value, and I know we're all different in this, and you always speak about this sort of thing all the time, but like, I really do value staying in 5-star places that make me feel very that are just really beautiful and, you know, not ridiculous. Like, you know, there's some places in Europe that are like $3-5 grand a night. Like, I believe, and I've always believed this, that the happier I am in the place that I'm staying in, the better I work. And then the better I work, the more lives I can change. And then in turn, the more money comes into the business. So I really value spending money on beautiful accommodation. And I now do really value flying first class, because I love spending money on experience. Like, I don't know, I just feel like life's so short, and I remember those times so much more than I would remember like buying like a bag or something. Like, we all have different things that we value, but yeah, that's kind of how it looks to me at the moment. But for my priorities with my money is just to get this app done and just travel. And then maybe next year or the year after, I'll think about like upgrading my house or something. But that's sort of what it's looking like for me.
How awesome. So it's interesting, because for you, it's almost like, it wasn't like you had this big, like, you know, I talk a lot on the podcast and in my life about my big goal is the house. I want to build the dream house. We've got the dream block. But for you, it feels like, you know, that you didn't have this big money goal that you were desperately like, this is my big thing that I'm wanting to create. So how did this all unfold for you? And what does money represent to you?
Money represents freedom to me in a way, like, especially with the travel side of things. I just really love the fact that I can know now that I can go away and just easily be able to afford to stay in these beautiful places. I thought like 3 or 4 years ago, my mindset was I won't be able to go to Italy and Europe until I have a boyfriend, because I won't be able to afford the places that I want to stay in. We'll have to go half. And so that's a really cool feeling to know that I can kind of do that. You know, in the meantime, of course, one day I would love a man to come with me and to share the experience, but it's nice to know that that I can do that now. But yeah, I didn't have that big goal. I think at the moment, what I value the most is travel. So I want to go on some more trips, and then next will be the goal like you have, like a bigger house for sure. But because I don't have a family yet and stuff, I feel like my little apartment that I'm in now is just so perfect for me. Like I feel really happy. And if I got a bigger house, for me right now, I don't think it would improve my happiness. Like, yeah, it would be bigger and it would be cooler, but I don't know. I don't think at the moment that's what would make me happy. I think at the moment it's still just nurturing my relationships, my friendships, and going on a few more holidays.
And I love that that's the ultimate goal, like happiness, really, isn't it? Because I think back now, for many years, my big goal and passion was travel. And I sometimes kick myself. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't buy a property. I just used to spend all my money on going out and eating out and traveling. But that's what made me happy at the time.
Exactly.
And I had no interest in buying a property because I was like, why would I want to do that? It just ties me down somewhere. I wasn't even interested in that. Do kind of regret it a little bit in hindsight now, but those are some of the funnest years of my life when I had this, a great income. And you do have your place as well, which is amazing. Can we just talk about one more thing before we wrap up the episode? I want to talk about something that's coming up with a client of mine at the moment around money and around selling and around the shame of earning an income from essentially like, when you do something like what we do, we help people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that a lot of people feel guilt and shame and things about charging for helping people. Can you share maybe a little bit about if that's been something for you, or
absolutely,
how that kind of plays into how money works for you?
Yeah. So I was there. That just made me remember the first thing you asked me, Claire, and I'll never forget this, but it just, when we had our first meeting, you were like, this was only 3 years ago or 4 years ago, Bec, what is if you think big, like you're really trying to put me into those think big shoes, think big. How much money do you want to make per week? And I'm pretty sure I said to you back then, $1,200. And you were like, Bec, no, but I want you to think big. And I was like, maybe 1,500. And you were like, why? I was like, well, that covers my rent, meals out, a little bit of savings. And I was in that mindset. I did not know what was possible yet. And I hadn't learned a lot of mindset tasks.
Does it blow your mind to think that you've made $100,000 in a flipping week?
Yeah. It's when I really reflect, then yes, I'm like, what the hell? Because now, it's really weird. It is really weird. And I don't think I'll ever stop feeling like reflecting and feeling proud and thinking about all the hard work and mindset changes that I've learned along the way. But with this one in particular, for this client of yours, it's so common. So the first thing that I like to say is that if you get very, very, very clear on your messaging and you understand most people's businesses, you're producing a transformation for someone else. And that's usually a good transformation, right? You're not going to just transform someone's life into a worse spot. Usually like the transformation that you're selling, in inverted commas, is going to improve their lives. So when you get very clear on that messaging and you get very clear on the exciting benefits that person is going to get on the other side of working with you, and you really start speaking to that and believing that, it completely takes away that ick of selling, because you're not selling. You're not getting their money off them. You literally just want to change their lives. And that's what worked for me. Like I don't feel icky at all when I sell now, because I just know how many women's lives are changing. And so like, I want them to spend money. Like, it's like, if you spend money with me, your life's about to get changed and they'll save money down the track. So that's the main things I like to say to someone that's in that position. And then really doing a lot of work on, working at your value as well. I'm still doing this. Like, pricing is a very, very, very tricky thing to work out. I know that you help people with this, Claire, but that is very hard to sort of get your head around. But I think what I've learned throughout my journey is that quite often, and I think you told me this too, like if something is more expensive, like if you're comparing two business coaches or two handbags or whatever, and one's cheaper and one's more expensive, quite often you think the more expensive one is better quality. So that can help with your mindset too when you're setting your price. Like if you think you're overcharging, just flip that around and go, maybe this will actually make me look very qualified and experienced in what I'm talking about, rather than being cheap.
Yeah. It's interesting how much guilt people have around selling, because it's like, yeah, especially when you offer a transformation. I know, like, let's take someone like Oprah. Oprah has struggled. She has all the money in the world. She's literally a billionaire. And she still struggles with her weight. She has struggled with her weight her whole life. And I bet you if you asked her to place a value on, hey, Oprah, if you could look and feel great every day, how much would you pay for that? I bet you should be like, whatever. I would pay whatever it took to break through what's been holding me back, right?
Yeah. And but that is why I think really getting your messaging right is so important, though, because you've got to communicate that value. And it's something that I actually had a negative comment on one of my Facebook ads that I had to remove yesterday, that I saw, that was like, the price, this price is a bit steep for a PDF. And I was like, of course some people are going to think that, but they don't understand that it's not about the PDF. And my program isn't a PDF. There's so much more to it. And when it's an app, it won't be a PDF, but it's about this is what I've learned throughout the years. It's not actually what's inside your program at all that people are buying. It's about the transformation. Like, it's not the contents inside. You know what I mean? It's not the shiny, perfect videos and the beautifully designed PDFs and all of that. Like, a lot of people sort of stay paralyzed with building things or getting them out to the world because they're like, it's not perfect, but it's not that people pay for. I mean, it's a tiny bit of it, but it's actually the transformation. So I think that really helps. On that topic,
you know what I love that you do, and I know that I do this as well, is you so deeply care about people. And I see, you'll jump on and you'll be crying and saying, like, when you get those messages saying my life's changed, or I've lost weight, or I've healed my gut issues, or whatever it might be, you're not just there being like, yeah, cool, I'm taking their money. You are like, this is why I do this work. Like, yes, money is a beautiful side effect that's allowing me to up-level my life and my business and, other areas. But at the end of the day, like, isn't that just the greatest feeling? I know for me,
I can't even describe it. Like, I just, if I start talking about it too much now, I'll cry again. I cry all the time about this. And I actually just wrote an EDM. Like, I've got all these new email sequences to write out for my new upcoming app. And one is about sort of like a love letter to the tribe and how I just can't believe how beautiful the community is. And I just said in that email, actually, that feeling that you get when I don't know what it's like to have kids yet, right? Okay, so don't get offended. I'm going to compare them to my dog. But when I look at Winston, I've got a little Italian greyhound. I get this feeling where I'm like, oh, I love you so much. And like the other night I actually cried. I was like, I just love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. And he gives me this feeling. And I also get the same feeling when I see my parents or my best friends. And I'm sure you'd get that feeling with your kids as well, I hope. 90% of the time.
Yes.
But
no, I do. Yeah.
This sounds so steep, and like, I mean it. That is how I feel every single time I see a review from someone or just post in the tribe. Like, they are I do what I do to change women's lives. And so when I say that transformation, it's the most satisfying and rewarding feeling. And to be honest, the way that I feel now is very similar to the way that I feel when I was in my first year of business, getting one client a month and making like $300. The thing that has stayed consistent is me loving that feeling of the transformation for someone. If I can change someone's life, I'm happy. And so now that it's thousands of women a week, it's a bit more, it makes me a bit happier and a bit more excited, but it's still that same core feeling that I tap into. And that's what keeps me going every day, is knowing that I'm changing people's lives. And that's what makes me not feel salesy at all, because that's my dream. My one dream has to be change as many lives as possible. I didn't know how many, I didn't know I'd be creating an app or anything, but that's just the one thing that I just think about every day, is how can I change people's lives?
I love that so much. And things like the app. I mean, you don't need to create an app. At the end of the day, that's a massive expense. No, but you don't have to do that. You are doing that to create more impact and to help people more.
Yeah.
I didn't have to write my book. My book cost me a bloody arm and a leg. Quite frankly, from a net profit perspective, it wasn't a decision I made. It was something that I wanted to create because I knew that it would help me to access more people, to reach more people, to help more people. And when you are driven from that real impact space, like the money does flow. It's a beautiful side effect of creating something that helps people. And that's why people want to invest.
Oh my God, I think you've got to focus on that first, money second. Like take the focus off the money, because when you're focusing just on the money as well, I think people can feel it and see through it. It's because you do come from more of a scarcity mindset and a selling mindset. But when you come from the how can I change people's lives and also protect your own life in the process, like make sure you're trying to feel as happy as you can, because it's not all about money. Like it's not. If you really go on how can I build a life that creates balance in my own life while changing other people's lives. And then, you're still charging a good amount. You've got to be practical about it, of course. Then the money can be a side effect that helps you just impact more lives and enjoy your life a bit more as well in the process.
It's another one of those hilarious paradoxes, isn't it, really? Like, I teach about money. I'm all about money. I'm like, everyone deserves to have the money they want and the life that they want, but also it can't just be about the money, because also that will stop you from in itself from making money, right? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If that's all you care about, you're going to burn your customers. You're going to, and you're not going to feel happy. Like you're going to have money and get there and be like, this feels like crap because I've just left a whole bunch of people behind, as compared to, my husband, Shannon, he always says to me, he goes, it's like you celebrate other people's successes almost more than you do your own sometimes.
Yeah.
And I love when people are able to change their lives. And I've been able to be, a part of that chapter, whether it's for a short period or a longer period of time. It's really incredible to be a witness to it.
Yeah, it's rare. I think it's rare these days to find friends that really celebrate your success in like a lot. You are absolutely one of them. And I feel so grateful for that. And you do that for every single person that you work with or that crosses your path. And I just think that that's so vital in women being able to succeed and believe in themselves. Like if I didn't meet you and work with you, I wouldn't have a lot of the mindset tools in my brain that I do to this day. I don't think you realize, Claire, but you are actually a huge part of my journey. I know that you don't think that you are, but like you really are. Because if I didn't meet you, then you actually inspired the idea behind the tribe, like sort of creating that consistent revenue. And just all of just knowing your numbers, and also the abundance mindset and doing things before you're ready, the money will flow, like all of this stuff you have absolutely taught me, even if it's just through sometimes these things you grab from Claire's like Instagrams that she does. And it's, if you just like really, I truly believe that you become what you absorb, and that's your friendships, that's Instagram, that's podcasts. So if you clue into a couple of people and you're listening to their things over and over again, you kind of eventually get brainwashed and you learn to change your mindset, and abundance as well. Because back then, remember, I thought I would be doing $1,200 weeks.
Oh, you're so sweet. I feel
before I met you.
I feel like professionally we didn't work together for, a huge period of time, but I know exactly what you mean. And likewise, you are such a positive impact. I said this to you just recently, you're such an inspiration, everything you're doing in business and also your life. I love the way that you show up online in, the inspiration, but also in the real way, because I really relate and empathize to that. I think sometimes Instagram can be a place where it's just everything's perfect all the time, and you share the struggles along the way as well, which I really love. So
I try.
Thank you for coming along, sharing with the listeners, inspiring them, showing them what's possible. And thank you for being such a beautiful friend of mine as well.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've absolutely loved it. And we'll keep chatting.
Yes, I'm sure we will. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks,
Bye.
Claire.
Bye.